I've always loved the Monster Hunter series for a really long time, and with Wilds just around the corner, I'm definitely excited for this game. With that being said, let's talk about the story on how we found the game. So there I was one day just chilling on my PlayStation when I saw a trailer revealing the game Monster Hunter Wilds. I was extremely excited as though I played both Worlds and Rise. I wanted a game that had the best of, well, both worlds combined together. They then released a beta so that way we could test out the game and get a taste of what it has to offer. There's some good and some bad within this beta, so let's get into both of them, shall we? Starting off with the good. In terms of more combat potential, it really shined out to me how many different variations of movesets can be used at a time, primarily the bow. For example, while using the bow, it seems that this time around you don't need to tediously make more coatings, as it seems like you'll have a continuous supply of them so long as the bow type up matches. Another example I had is that there is a blue bar on the right of your screen that looks to really have, well, no purpose. But I then realized that this time around the bow's arrows actually stick to the enemy, so long as you have that blue bar filled within the range of those markers. So once you hit said monster with those arrows, you'll use your little lock-on feature and blast them up. And I'm gonna be honest, I can't wait to actually use that in game. It's gonna go crazy. Piggybacking on the bow improvements, some more. Wilds added this reptile roadrunner looking animal called a cycrid that I would tell you what it does, but it's a secret. You know, like secret, secret. Anyway, real talk though, bringing down the mic, I love the new addition to another rideable companion. While the Palamutes were great for traversal, support in combat, and finding things, being able to switch weapons on the fly is definitely a great trade-off for a bird that can't really fight with us. Hopefully the new mount will have some sort of way to defend itself. Keeping the positivity going, after a quest, you can just hold the button to end the timer. No longer do you need to wait, for 60 seconds and all that, just to get all this stuff and sit around and just be patient. Nah, you can just hold the touchpad, collect, and explore this open game. Yeah, you heard that right. I said it. It's a massive open game where you can, for the first time in forever, be in the same camp as someone else in Monster Hunter. It seems that now it has dedicated servers for people to just hop on in. Grab your gear, saddle up to fight some more monsters. Are you, sir, a little too far from Mace? Well, you're in luck, as there will be spots within the area to place your own camp down. But here's the catch. This catch is that you'll be more vulnerable to getting attacked by rando schmando enemies that'll head your way. So, you better plan ahead. I'm gonna be honest though, you can really just fast travel, back to the camp, like your main camp. And unless you really need that item, which I mean, again, you can just go back to the camp. I don't really see this. It's an okay feature. I guess for like immersion, it's an okay feature. But you could just really just, if as long as you're not in combat, you can just fast travel back to the base. So yeah, it's a nice little thing to have though, but Oh, and an extreme minor point. You can cook more than one raw meat at a time. Yes, we can finally not just cook one meat, sit down, cook the meat, sit down, cook the meat. Nope. We can cook like 6 of them at a time. You can cook your whole thing all at one time. So get your friends and see what we're chefing up today. Jeez Louise, talk about improvement, ambition, and premise. New mounts, palicos that can, weirdly talk, open area with dedicated servers, batter monsters, multiple food item cookings, raw meat cooking, man, fast travel, great cinematics, and so much more to come. I really have to give it to you, Capcom. You're really showing me that y'all still got it after all these years. From Street Fighter 6 looking amazing to this, you're doing good. That being said though, seeing from the beta, if this is supposed to be the final release, then we indeed do have some problems when it actually comes out. Let's get on to the bad. If there's one thing, one annoying thing that I can tell you right off the bat, it's how much this game literally demands you to put yourself into an auto move. So with your secret, right, he can kind of move on his own, like depending on wherever you select your quest. Like how in MMOs, how they put like, auto follow for the quest. That's what the secret does, but the game kind of forces you into a position where you have to do that. And when I was, fighting the first boss, I randomly just started walking off with no direction. That's the problem with putting your stuff on, like, up on the D-pad, right? And, the first time, I was like, my bad, whoopsie dingles. I messed up. I'll admit it, Spider-Man. I messed up. But then the second two times, I just started walking out of nowhere. It'd be like I was fighting the monster, and then I just started walking off. You know what I mean? It'd be like a police officer being like in full fire assault against a person and then just walking off for no reason. It was weird. I don't know. That one was kind of weird. Moving on, and this one's going to be a really minute point, but the arc shot? The old to the sky. Well, they decided to change the button press, weirdly enough. Usually, whenever you press the keybind, it'd be R2 and circle, and then you release the circle button, and boom, you'll send the arrows wherever, the radius that you aimed at. This time around, when you do it, you'll hold R2, circle, and then you have to release R2 first. And I know that doesn't matter to, the people coming in, but, muscle memory wise, and for everybody who's mainly played Worlds and Rise, that kind of is weird because there's no follow-up combo for that. Usually whenever, you do the combos in this game, it always has a follow-up for a third action. What I mean by this, if I press circle, circle, and triangle, that's a follow-up action, right? It wouldn't just go circle, R2, or R2 and circle, and then release R2. It would have to double on something, right? If you're going to make me release with R2, at least double it onto something. I don't know. It's just a really weird change that I just don't think was really good. But let's move on. You remember when I said earlier this was an open game? I didn't specify what it was. I did that for a reason, right? Because this game's not actually an open world game. It's more of like an open section game, right? As certain things will be blocked off if you don't have the hunter rank requirements for it. Technically, they call it open zone and all that, but I think you get the point. As a game that was supposed to mainly be on this big premise on, being more open world and, exploring all this stuff, it still feels gated despite it being, the whole area and all of that. Performance-wise, at times, it can feel kind of slow, like one big essential drag. More than likely, it's due to having, render everything, and that's kind of the problem with like MMOs and stuff, and why usually most MMORPGs kind of look a little bad to a degree. This game still does look good, but, it's like you have to render the monsters being in real time, the little mini enemies being in real time, objects, your characters, people in the game. I feel like it's just way too much for what they're really trying to go through. It's a lot, right? And performance-wise, when it does that, it kind of dips a bit. Like, a bit. Now, don't get me wrong when I say this, alright? Yeah, graphically, it's good. And cutscenes do look amazing. But you can't try to give us your cinematic cutscenes and then suddenly transition or fade into your in-game graphic style cutscenes, because despite what your thought process was, it still looks jarring seeing the contrast between the two in real time. What I mean by this is that there's going to be a point in the game, right? And a little semi-spoiler alert, this is like at the beginning of the game after you beat the first boss. The brother finds his sister, right? And then the game's like, okay, now you can go explore, do whatever. You'll suddenly see the graphic change from your navigator person, and she'll go from like being like pretty crisp and clear to looking like the in-game graphic. And the in-game graphics okay, but you can't have like a beautiful, it's like going from 4K to like 720. You know what I mean? But it's like in the same movie. You know the dip quality. You know when it changed. It just doesn't look right. And lastly, while I am glad that many of the weapons in Wilds have, well, again, no pun intended, wildly improved, certain ones like, the change for the bow's arc shot, and mainly this one, the used to be pogo sticking inside glaive, are things I just feel like really did not need to be changed. I mean, like, certain combinations with weapons just feel like they don't need to have extended combos or nerfs in certain things. I already mentioned the bow, but for the glaive in Worlds, you were able to constantly stick to your opponent, and if you timed it right, you can keep on jumping up and down on the monster unless you ran out of stamina. Now, some would call that cheese, cheese of Bruno, some Gouda, right? But it was intentional, as you could get hit by doing, this cheesery. And by having no stamina also meant that you couldn't perform attacks or evade if the situation called it. So doing this action was very risky, but could be rewarding if you did it right. Sadly, they removed this feature, really limiting the maneuverability that you once had. Unnecessarily, might I add. Because, when you're the insect glaive, you can stick him with some poison. He's poisoned slowly over time, and you can just keep on pogo sticking the entire time, slashing him. I get what they were trying to do, but the insect glaive is more like a dual-wielded staff. It feels good. It feels clean when you get off attacks. It feels smooth when you get those hits off. By kind of nerfing some of this stuff, it just feels like it's just not really it. Feels kind of odd, not really concise or fluid. But that's just me. So to conclude this, well, I really am just gonna call it a semi-review, considering that the game is not actually out, and this is just more so the beta. I've had my rough moments with the game. I will say that I am glad that this franchise is still going strong, with the basic premise of, go beat monster and skin it so you can use its flesh to be more durable and effective in combat. It really has hit home with many fans resonating with it as being a really extremely good company and game franchise. Luckily, this was just the beta of the game, so hopefully those bugs and errors, schmered errors, have, gotten patched out. Along with that, I also hope that the performance will be really stable and not feeling sluggish, as that really will lose the impact of the game, in my opinion. The final rating for this beta, the beta's rating, is like if you were able to taste test a food franchise's unreleased delicacy to see what needs to be improved. You eat it, and then you tell them that it's great, just fix some minor things before making the product mainstream. Out of 10. Whew. Scribble. Thank you all so much for watching. I know I've beaten it like a dead horse, but this is not my final opinion on this game. Or so I hope, if they don't change anything. Because today should be the release of Monster Hunter Wilds. So, if you bought it, then you should get onto that. What are you doing watching this video? Oh, and subscribe. Yeah, they're gone. Well, at least those people who left, at least they're playing a good franchise. I don't blame them. Well, for the people that stayed, make sure to like and subscribe for more reviews, and comment down below what you'd like to see next, or what you thought about the game itself, the game and the beta. We have a Discord in case you want to keep on the chats and stuff like that. Make sure the convo doesn't die out. Beep boop 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 bop, generic funding that should not be a thing, but is there anyways? With that being said, this is SwaggBird7, making Budokai 2 officially before March 28th, to say to beware and take care.